I died for 11 seconds in the ICU, flatlined, just like that. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was a nurse looking surprised. He gently asked if I wanted to call my family. What he didn't know, and what I found out from a note, left beside my hospital bed, was that they had flown off to Maui. The note said, "Gone for 12 days. Hope you're better when we get back." That was it. So I waited. Quietly. I healed alone. And when I was strong enough, I sold the house, emptied the bank accounts, and disappeared. By the time they came home, I was already long gone. Before we dive into the rest, take a second to like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments, what's one life lesson everyone should hear before it's too late? The first thing I remember after waking up was the loud, steady beep of the heart. Monitor. Then came the burning pain in my chest from when they shocked me back to life. I had no idea what day it was. Everything hurt, and my mouth was so dry I could barely move my lips. The nurse's name tag said, Carlos. He had kind eyes, but that morning they were full of panic, like he didn't think I was supposed to wake up. I tried to ask where my daughters were. All he said was, "Just rest, Mrs. Whitaker." That night, after the shift changed, I overheard him talking on the phone just a few feet away. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but I did. "Yes, ma'am." She stabilized. "Yeah, no, she's conscious now. Would you like to speak to her?" Then a pause. "Okay. Got it. Just thought you want to know." I stared up at the flickering fluorescent lights, trying to understand what I had just heard. My own daughter didn't even want to talk to me. My chest tightened worse than when I had the stroke. I spent 8 days in the ICU. No one came, no flowers, no phone calls, just silence. When I was finally discharged, Carlos was the only one who offered to push my wheelchair to the van. He looked uncomfortable, like he felt sorry for me but didn't know what to say. A hospital transport van took me home, but when I got there, I had to wait outside for 20 minutes because the spare key I kept hidden in a ceramic frog was missing. When the door finally opened, it wasn't Kelsey or Aaron. It was Rick, my son-in-law. He held a Starbucks cup and looked like he had seen a ghost. He mumbled something about a delayed flight and how they were planning to check on me tomorrow. But when I stepped inside, something felt completely wrong. The furniture had been moved. The walls were halfway painted. My wedding photos were packed up in boxes, like junk. On the dining table, I saw a real estate flyer with my house on it. Charming southern home, perfect for young families. I hadn't agreed to sell anything. I hadn't signed a thing. Then I saw it, a file folder sitting on the kitchen counter, open. Inside was a power of attorney document. My signature was there from 2 years ago. Back then, I had a small surgery, and they said it was just a precaution. They had used it while I was unconscious, to start getting rid of me. I dropped to the floor. My legs just gave out. I don't even know how long I sat there. Eventually, I reached for Erin's old iPad, still plugged in near the pantry. It turned on. She hadn't logged out of her messages. That's when I saw it. House goes on MLS Monday. If she's not home yet, we'll start the assisted living intake. Let's be honest. Mom was never good at boundaries. Kelsey wrote that. My own daughter. They weren't planning to care for me. They were planning to erase me, like I was. Some chore they forgot to finish. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up. I opened the pantry, took out the shoebox where I kept my emergency cash. Then I grabbed the old dog-eared notebook where I'd written all my passwords since 1998. If they thought I was just going to sit there helpless, let them pack me off to a nursing home while they sold off everything I had built, they clearly forgot who raised them. The next morning I waited for Rick to leave on whatever fake errand he had lined up. Then I walked straight into the room they used to call the guest bedroom. It was full of boxes now. Half of my clothes were already folded up. The bed was half empty, some of my clothes stuffed into plastic donation bags. My dresser drawers? Completely cleared out. No one had asked me what I wanted to keep. That's when it really sank in. This wasn't some kind of mix-up. They weren't trying to help me recover. They were getting ready to erase me. I picked up the iPad again and went through more of their messages. Aaron had texted Kelsey from the airport. Once Mom's house sells, we'll have room to breathe. Room to breathe? From what? Me? The woman who worked 2 jobs after their father died just to keep food on the table? The one who paid off Rick's debt when his business failed? The one who babysat their kids for free every summer while they took fancy vacations to Vegas and Cabo? I sat down at the kitchen table and opened the folder again. This time, I really looked at the paperwork. The power of attorney they used? It wasn't the one I remembered signing. It was broader, more dangerous, notarized during my hip surgery. Kelsey had shoved it in front of me while I was groggy on morphine, saying it was just for insurance. I barely remember scribbling my name. I thought it didn't matter. But now they were using it to take my life apart. I called James Pewitt, the lawyer who'd handled my original will. He used to be one of my students. Now he runs his own law firm. I told him everything. He listened quietly, then said, "You're not the first, Ellie, but we can fight this." He brought me in right away. We went over every document together, and he confirmed what I'd been hoping. That power of attorney didn't give them the right to sell my house without my clear written permission. "They jumped the gun," James said. "If you act fast, you can turn this around." So I did. James filed to cancel their control and restore my full legal rights. We also started prepping the house for sale, my sale. I didn't want to keep the house anymore. I just wanted to empty it before they could. That night, I stood in the living room doorway, the same spot where we used to put up the Christmas tree. I looked down at the faint dent in the carpet where the couch used to be, and I told myself this would be the last time I ever looked back. I wasn't just walking away from a house. I was walking away from the lie that they were still my people. They weren't. They had become strangers. And the worst part? They thought I was too weak to leave, but I didn't waste my breath trying to confront them. What's the point in shouting at people who already stopped listening? James moved fast. Within 3 days, the house was legally back under my name, and the sale was relisted, with me in charge this time. First thing I did? Changed the locks. Then I spoke through the Ring doorbell camera and told Rick to come pick up his tools before I gave them away. He didn't say a word, just grabbed them quietly and left the gate open behind him. Like a coward. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not even James. I sold everything except for the few things that truly mattered. Some old family photos, my late husband's watch, and a small box filled with drawings the girls made when they still loved me. The house sold in 11 days. All cash, no delays. I walked into the bank and shut down every account they had access to. Opened a brand new one at a different branch using a slightly different name, Nora Wittman, after my grandmother. I turned most of the money into money orders and tucked the rest into a locked travel pouch under the passenger seat of my car. That car, my dusty silver Corolla, was the last thing I held on to. Nobody pays attention to a car like that. And that's exactly what I wanted. The night before I left, I sat in my empty living room on a plastic folding chair. I ate a peanut, butter sandwich off a paper plate, and wrote 2 letters, one for each daughter. I didn't yell at them. I didn't blame them, not directly. I just wrote, "You taught me who you really are. Thank you for the education." I left the letters on the counter. Then I unplugged the fridge, grabbed the spare key from the ceramic frog in the yard, and walked out. By sunrise, I was already out of Charleston, heading north on I-95. No GPS. No destination. Just me. I wasn't running away. I was removing myself. And that's a big difference. They wanted a life without me? Well, now they've got it. By the time I crossed into Maine, I'd burned through half a tank of gas and 3 cups of diner coffee. By the time I left Charleston and rolled into a tiny town called Elkport, so small it barely had a population worth counting, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. A little bit of peace. I hadn't planned to go there. I saw a billboard that said, Elkport Library, voted friendliest place in Maine. And I thought, why not? That was good enough for me. I checked into a worn-down little motel, paid cash for a full week, and introduced myself with a made-up story. I told them my name was Nora Whitman, that I was a retired librarian from Roanoke, Virginia, a widow, no kids, just a woman looking for a new beginning. And the scary thing? It was so easy to pretend. No one asked questions. In a town that small, people just assume you're running from something. And weirdly, they seem to respect that. A couple of days later, I found a small trailer for rent behind a bait shop. It came fully furnished, cost $580 a month, and the landlord Jim didn't need a lease as long as I paid in cash. He only asked me one thing. You smoke? I said no, and that was the end of it. I got my groceries from a little family-owned store down the road, signed up for a library card under my new name, and started volunteering there twice a week, just shelving books. Within 10 days, people knew me as that quiet lady with a soft, southern voice and gentle hands who always asked how your mom was doing. And that's where I met Lily. Lily was 27, worked long hours as a waitress, and always wore a tired smile. She had a little girl named Emma, and from the second week, Emma started calling me Nana Nora. I didn't correct her. I told Lily I used to be a teacher and started helping Emma read. Soon, she was reading books way beyond her grade level. I'd babysit sometimes too. Day by day, life started to feel easier. At night, I kept a small notebook under my pillow. In it, I wrote down every lie I'd told, just in case I forgot the details. No kids, no Charleston, no Kelsey, no Aaron, just Nora and her quiet trailer by the marsh. But some nights, I'd wake up out of breath, not from nightmares, but from fear. The kind of fear where you think someone might knock on the door and say your real name out loud. That thought terrified me more than anything. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was hiding. And even though no one had come looking for me yet, I knew they eventually would. Back in Charleston, it all came crashing down. My daughters flew home, expecting to walk back into the house and start their big transition plan. But everything was gone. Kelsey called first, and when I didn't answer, she texted, "Hey, we're back. Can we stop by tomorrow to go over logistics?" I didn't reply. They got suspicious when they saw the locks had been changed. The for sale sign was missing, the mailbox stuffed with final notices and bank letters. That's when panic kicked in. Aaron tried calling James, the lawyer, but he just told her, very politely, that he wasn't allowed to talk to them anymore. When she went to his office in person, he wouldn't even buzz her in. Rick, trying to be clever, snuck around to peek through the back window, but the house was completely empty. No furniture, no pictures, not even a nail left on the wall. That night they called the police and reported me as missing. But the detective wasn't exactly rushing to investigate, especially after Rick let it slip that they had been on vacation in Maui while I was lying in the ICU. And worse, he admitted they hadn't visited me even once during my 8-day hospital stay. Within 2 days, the gossip started spreading. First through Mrs. Jenkins, my neighbor, who never liked Kelsey's attitude, and then on Facebook. Someone posted, "Anyone know what happened to Ms. Whitaker?" and mentioned the house being listed while I was in the hospital. The comments blew up. One person even matched up the date on the real estate flyer with the dates on my hospital records. Someone online had pulled up public records and shared the whole story. While I was fighting for my life in a hospital bed, my family was off sunbathing in Maui. The outrage didn't just stay online, it turned real. First, a local reporter showed up outside their house. Then a bigger news station picked it up and turned it into a headline. "Abandoned in the ICU while family vacationed in paradise." Suddenly, Kelsey, once the golden child, was getting yelled at in the Trader Joe's parking lot. People were calling her heartless. Erin went on TV, trying to cry her way through an interview saying, "We thought she was okay. We never imagined she'd leave like this." But viewers didn't buy it. Someone clipped her quote and made a TikTok with footage of tourists lying on the beach in Maui. They titled it, "Vacation Vultures." People were tagging Dr. Phil, demanding an elder abuse investigation. They started digging into Rick's failed businesses and speculating that maybe I hadn't vanished after all. Maybe I'd finally had enough and got smart. And while they were panicking, I stayed quiet, tucked away in my little trailer in Maine. I watched everything play out on Lily's old laptop when she wasn't home. I read the comments. People were calling me a legend, a hero, Grandma gone ghost. But I didn't feel like a legend. I just felt safe, hidden. For the first time in my whole life, I didn't owe anyone anything. Almost 2 months had passed since I left Charleston. The media buzz had faded. My name hadn't trended in weeks. I started to believe maybe, just maybe, the world had moved on without me. Life had slipped into a quiet rhythm. I spent mornings at the library, afternoons helping Lily by watching Emma while she worked. Emma had taken me in as a second mom without hesitation. When her 7th birthday came around, I helped bake cupcakes and hang up decorations at the little VFW hall across from the diner where Lily worked nights. It was simple: streamers, store-bought pizza, and paper plates that didn't match. But it was perfect. Emma asked me to sit right next to her while she opened her gifts. Someone handed me a party hat, and I put it on without thinking. One of the moms, a young, always posting type, filmed a short 30-second clip for Instagram. Nothing fancy, just Emma opening gifts with me beside her, smiling, handing her presents, reading a card aloud. I didn't think twice about it. But 3 days later, while I was sorting returned books at the library, Lily ran in. Her face was pale, her phone shaking in her hand. "Nora, you need to see this right now." That little birthday video had been reposted by a mommy blog. Then a TikTok account picked it up and matched it with screenshots from the Charleston news story. The caption was brutal. "Found her. Grandma Ghost is alive and well in Maine. She changed her name, got a new family, and honestly, we love her even more now." I felt my stomach drop. The comments were flooding in. Some people cheered me on, saying I'd made a boss move. Others called me a monster for abandoning my real family. My face was everywhere again. And worse, the video had the town's name tagged. I dropped to the floor behind the return desk, heart pounding like it did when I was stuck in that hospital bed, tubes everywhere, unable to speak. Lily knelt next to me, concerned. "What's going on?" she asked. I looked at her, and for the first time, I told the truth. "My name's not Nora. It's Eleanor Whitaker. And I didn't just walk away from a family. I escaped one." She didn't flinch, didn't judge, just gave a small nod and said, "Okay, so what do we do now?" That's when I knew the hiding part of this story was about to end. Not because I wanted it to, but because someone, somewhere, was already on their way. I didn't sleep that night, not out of fear, but because I knew what was coming, and I didn't want to waste a single second pretending I was still safe. By the next morning, the video had hit over 1 million views. I'd been dragged into new conspiracy threads. People were now claiming I faked my stroke just to get revenge. It's strange how fast the world can turn you from victim to villain the moment you start taking back control. So, I turned off the Wi-Fi, wiped the browser history, and quietly packed everything I owned into 2 duffel bags, just in case I had to run again. I was ready to disappear again. I'd even started thinking about where I might go next. But before I could make a plan, I saw it. That silver Toyota with South Carolina plates rolling past the library parking lot like a shark circling in shallow water. I knew it was Erin, even before I saw her face. It was the way she parked, too careful, too perfect, like she was still trying to earn a gold star from someone who'd stopped grading years ago. She got out wearing jeans and a cardigan, like we were meeting for brunch instead of standing face to face after months of silence, shame, and national headlines. She stood by the entrance with a paper coffee cup, eyes heavy with exhaustion. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. I watched her from behind the stacks for a full 5 minutes. Then, finally, I stepped outside. She just stared for a second, like she needed to make sure I was real. Then her voice broke the stillness. "Mom, please don't walk away." Her voice cracked on Mom, and something in me stirred. That old reflex, the urge to comfort her, rose up, uninvited and unwanted. But I didn't move. She stepped a little closer. "You're not a ghost. You're not done. You can come home." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "I already did the funeral, Erin. You just didn't show up." She flinched like I'd slapped her. I expected her to get defensive, to start blaming Rick or Kelsey or bad timing or the doctors, whatever excuse she'd probably been rehearsing in the mirror. But she didn't. She just stood there, gripping that coffee cup like it was the only thing holding her upright. "We didn't know," she whispered. We thought we were helping." I laughed, sharp, ugly. Not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe she was still trying to rewrite history. "You left me to die alone in a hospital bed," I said. "And when I didn't die, you tried to pack me up like I was old furniture. Don't say you didn't know. You knew. You just didn't care." Tears started to fall, quiet, controlled, like she was trying not to ruin her mascara, and I let her stand in that silence, just soaking in it. Then I said, "I'm not coming back, Erin. I found something better. A life that doesn't involve pretending everything was okay." And I walked away, not in a dramatic rush, just steady, final, like someone closing a door that should have been shut years ago. 3 days after she left, a plain manila envelope showed up in the library return slot. It was addressed to Nora. But the handwriting, it was Erin's. I recognized it instantly. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on the kitchen table for 2 days, untouched. I didn't know if I was ready for another apology, or if I just wanted to burn it without reading a word. When I finally tore it open, it wasn't a letter from her. It was from me, my own handwriting, scrawled and shaky on the back of a hospital intake form. Words I'd written while in the ICU, when I didn't think I was going to survive. I had written it for them. "If I don't wake up, just know I forgave you already. But if I do, please come. I'm scared." The second I saw it, I remembered everything. I'd begged Carlos, the nurse who was kind to me, to make sure someone got it if they ever came. He later told me he slipped it into my belongings bag when no one showed up. I guess they found it while going through the house. Erin must have read it after she saw me here in Maine, and now, here it was again, in my hands, like a ghost of the woman I used to be. But I didn't cry. I didn't fall apart. I read it once, then again. Then I folded it neatly and slid it into the notebook where I kept every fake ID, address, and lie that made up my new life. Right next to the page labeled, "No contact. Peace." The next morning, Kelsey emailed the library. I still don't know how she found the address, but her message was short. "I'd like to come. Just once. No Rick, no cameras. Just me." I stared at that email for a long time. I didn't know what I wanted from her. Maybe nothing. Maybe just to see her face when she realized I wasn't the fragile, desperate woman she'd discarded, but someone who had buried her grief and built something stronger without her. Eventually, I typed back, "One visit. That's it. Bring the letter with you." That night, when Lily got home, I told her, Kelsey was coming. She didn't say much, just nodded and asked, "Do you want me here when she comes?" I shook my head. No, this one's mine to finish. It was a gray, quiet Saturday morning. She showed up dressed like she was heading to a church brunch. White blouse, perfect jeans, and heels that clearly weren't made for walking on gravel. She kept looking at her watch like she had somewhere important to be, even though we both knew she didn't. We met at the cemetery just outside town, the one I'd driven past 100 times but never stepped into. I chose that place for one reason. It was calm, it was neutral, and people don't usually lie when they're standing near someone who can't talk back. I was already sitting on the bench beside Frank's grave when she arrived, holding on to a tote bag like it could protect her. For a second, I saw the teenage girl she used to be, the same one who used to sit next to me in hospital waiting rooms, hoping her dad would survive another round of chemo. She didn't say hello, just handed me an envelope and sat down a few feet away like she was afraid I might lash out. I opened it and saw the letter I'd written from the ICU, back when I thought I might not make it. Only this time, the pages were covered in blue ink, her notes in the margins, little replies to each line I wrote. She whispered, "We didn't." No, it was that bad. I thought Aaron would go. "I'm sorry, Mom. I was scared." She stared down at her hands. "I didn't know how to handle seeing you get so weak." The silence between us was so thick, it felt like the sky might break. Then I said, "I didn't need you to be strong. I just needed you to be there." She gave a small nod, like she'd been telling herself that same thing for a long time. "You think I don't hate myself?" she said. "You think I sleep at night?" I looked at her and said, "I think you sleep better than I did, wondering why my own daughters couldn't bother to hold my hand while I lay bleeding in a hospital bed." That broke her. She started crying, not the kind of tears you use to get sympathy, but real, painful sobs she tried to muffle in her sleeve, like she didn't want Frank to hear. "We were selfish," she said. "We thought we had more time." I glanced at Frank's grave and said quietly, "So did he." I didn't forgive her, not out loud, not in my heart, but I didn't yell either. I just told her the truth. "You and Aaron are grown-ups. You made your choice. You don't get to rewrite it now just because people saw what it looked like." She asked if she could visit again. I said no. She asked if she could write letters. I told her she could send them to Lily's P.O. box, but I wouldn't promise to read them. When we stood up to leave, she moved in for a hug. I stepped back, not to be mean, just to make it clear. "That part of me," I said, "you already buried. This time, I get to choose the funeral." The next morning, I sat at my little table in the trailer with a clean sheet of paper. It was the same notebook I'd once used for fake names and old passwords. I wrote one last letter, not to Kelsey, not to Aaron, not even to Frank, to me. "You did it," I wrote at the top. Just that. Simple. True. "You got out." Then I made 2 lists. One of the things I left behind, a house that never felt like home anymore, a name people forgot, and a family that thought being related meant I owed them everything. The other list? Things I found. Quiet mornings, honest talks, a child's laugh that didn't come with guilt, and Lily, a woman who saw me for who I am now, not who I used to be. I folded the letter and wrote on the front, "Nora Wittman, keep it." Then I tucked it into a shoebox under the bed with Emma's crayon drawings and the only photo I kept of my daughters, taken long before they learned what inheritance meant. That afternoon, I helped Lily trim the hedges outside. Emma came, running over, holding a chipped seashell, yelling, "Nana, look what I found!" I didn't flinch at the word. I just smiled and said, "Perfect, let's go build something with it." We sat in the sand for an hour, stacking shells and laughing, not because everything was magically okay, but because I realized I didn't need to be completely healed to feel whole again. I didn't check the news. I didn't open the mailbox. I didn't wait for another letter. Whatever story they're telling about me now, that's theirs. Let the world chew on it. Here, in this little town with no past and no expectations, I'm not Eleanor Whitaker, the mom who was left behind, or the grandma everyone whispered about. I'm just Nora, and this time, I get to decide who calls me anything else.